Introduction. Is healthcare fixable? When Michael Lewis published the book Moneyball in 2003, no one predicted the impact it would have. The book told the compelling story of the Major League Baseball franchise, the Oakland Athletics, and their non-traditional, data-driven approach to picking undervalued players. Using this radical methodology, the Athletics were able to far exceed the expectations of a small market team with very little money. Nobody saw it coming. After all, baseball was steeped in a century and a half of wisdom, yet the Athletics had done something remarkable. They discovered a disruptive new way to dramatically improve the process of picking players using a data-driven approach known as analytics, a technique that relies on analysts to sift through the trail of statistics accumulated over a player's career in order to determine his or her ultimate value. In 2007, the first year the Athletics fired their talent scouts and fully committed to the methodology, they won a record-breaking 20 games in a row and finished first in the American League West with a record of 103 wins and 59 losses. In the wake of Lewis's Moneyball, however, a lingering question remained. How could the traditional method of using talent scouts to pick players have been so flawed in the first place? The talent scouts had been getting something wrong. But what? Why was raw, apathetic data better than the intuition of the expert mind? There had to be another story to tell. This story within a story might have been lost on Michael Lewis, if not for a review of Moneyball published in the New Republic in the summer of 2003 by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, two academics at the University of Chicago. Thaler and Sunstein pointed out that the questions about human intuition that Moneyball raised were, in fact, questions that two Israeli psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, had been grappling with since the 1960s. Of course, Michael Lewis has a preternatural gift for sniffing out interesting stories. Tipped off by the New Republic Review, he followed the trail of crumbs to Kahneman and Tversky. Here, Lewis realized, was a fascinating story about two irreverent psychologists who had quietly changed the very foundation of the social sciences. Their research centered largely on a single question: how does the human mind make decisions? Over decades, their research uncloaked a shocking number of hardwired glitches, firewalls, and irrational shortcuts inherent to the human mind. Kahneman and Tversky's work had alone reversed a long-standing assumption within the social sciences that people are mostly rational. These findings, of course, have consequences far beyond explaining why talent scouts often get it wrong when deciding which players to draft for a baseball team. These consequences affect the very fabric of society: politicians deciding on tax policy or whether or not to go to war, investors deciding which stock to buy or sell, doctors making diagnoses or deciding on a treatment for a sick patient. If the human mind was so flawed, whom could we trust? And more importantly, how could we fix it? Throughout the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, Kahneman and Tversky's work didn't travel far outside the narrow world of academia. Within academia, however, their careers experienced a meteoric rise. As the 21st century neared, they were showered with awards, a list that includes numerous honorary degrees, a MacArthur Fellowship, a Guggenheim Fellowship, the Grawemeyer Award, and the Nobel Prize, to name just a few. But in truth, neither of them cared much for awards. They had always sought something more inclusive, something beyond the confined ecosystem of academia. They hoped their work would penetrate the world at large and make it a better place, that it would serve as a template for humanity to improve by recognizing its innate flaws and devising systems to bypass them. All at once, their wish came true.